So there's been a case that's been going viral recently about a woman named Jennifer Sheffield. This is a woman who went on TikTok expressing her surprise and also her anxiety towards getting a divorce, but also her expressing how well the divorce was going with her husband. She said that they seemed to be on really good terms and he was taking it very well, and about 2 weeks later, he killed her. The husband has murdered his soon-to-be ex-wife and then reportedly killed himself.
So, about to be a newly single mom, and I am in the middle of a divorce. My husband is being incredible though, like really and truly, like we're working together, everything's great, we're splitting everything down the middle, like, you know, everything is good. It is a very civil divorce with our daughter in mind, and I really appreciate that.
And as if this situation wasn't already sad and disturbing enough, there are people on the internet trying to justify the husband's behaviors. There are plenty of people trying to sympathize with him and say that she was trying to take the kids, although we have, as of right now, no evidence of her actually doing that, or at least trying to do that. And according to the video, it seems like they both had a pretty good agreement on how they would share custody of the kids, and a whole bunch of other excuses that not only men, but surprisingly women were also trying to make on justifying this man's behavior. So I wanted to use this situation as a perfect example where there's somebody who may be going through a tough time, but how that is not an excuse to justify their bad behavior. Because this rule can be applied to so many different circumstances that we see happening on the news and just happening in real life. Because, I mean, some of the stuff that these people are saying and how they view this whole situation and somehow is trying to switch and put the blame on the wife or make it seem like it was understandable why the husband had killed her in the first place. I mean, there was one tweet that said, "This is how you fix marriages. Bring back consequences." Huh? I'm gonna be honest, some of y'all actually scare me. Okay, like, I don't know what's going on through y'all heads, but I need protection from some of y'all. Much like you guys need protection from the data stealing thieves on the internet, which can be made possible by using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Alright, we've all experienced this before. Sitting down, minding our own business, and then the phone rings. And then we jump running to our phones with excitement thinking that somebody finally remembered that we exist because your phone stayed dry as the Sahara Desert, only for it to be like a scam likely call or something like that. Or waiting for your mom to text you back so she can tell you how to pay your phone bill because you can't do absolutely anything on your own, only to receive a text saying that your free dental implants are available. Yeah, that's an actual scam text that I got before, and as well as a lot of other confusing scam messages. Anyways, this is happening because data brokers are constantly stealing your data and selling it to various companies, invading your privacy and exposing your data on the internet. But with Aura, an all-in-one digital security service, you can easily identify who is selling your personal information, and with the click of a button, Aura can opt out of allowing your data to be used from those sites, making your information secure. You can also go a step further with Aura's built-in VPN service, which allows you to protect your internet connection and hide your location with military-grade level encryption. Perfect for those days you need to use some good old McDonald's Wi-Fi to check some emails. Aura promises to secure your data and your privacy. Your data is safeguarded using the same security standards as the bank or the military, so you know your information's good. And Aura will never sell your information to third parties. And if you want to go even further beyond, Aura has built-in antiviruses that secures your devices from malware, trojans, spyware, and all the other diabolical sicknesses that'll inflict your computers. Oh, and not just computers, by the way. You can use it for Android, Mac, and PC. You can get all these safety features and so much more, like credit checks and parental controls, all in one app at an affordable price. So please do not leave yourself vulnerable to data breaches. You can go to aura.com/kseja or click the link in the description to try it for 2 weeks for free. So go, thrive, and protect yourself from the dangers of the internet. And thank you again to Aura for sponsoring this video. Okay, so as you've seen in the video, Jennifer is talking about her and her husband's relationship and their divorce and how he's taking it very well. Apparently, at that time, it seemed like he was. She was expressing that she was really anxious going into the world as a new mom and asking for different types of tips that people on the internet can give her. And now, so many people are taking this video and twisting it completely out of context, or at least they're projecting their own beliefs on the clip, saying that she did all this just for attention and validation on the internet, or she was putting herself up back on the market for other men, that she was trying to just take the kids from her husband and run off and go find a new man. First of all of these things are complete speculation. We don't know that she was trying to take the kids from the husband. Again, in the video, it seemed like it was implied that they would both be sharing custody and being able to see them or whatever. So this is another one of those instances where a short clip on the internet does not give you the full context. Similar to the other video that I made a while back about that whole saying, oh, that's dumb trend on TikTok that was like, I'm calling my boyfriend husband on camera and getting his reaction, and that whole thing that blew up, and everyone was telling this one girl to, break up with her boyfriend because he didn't give the right reaction, whatever that reaction was supposed to be. You don't know anything about the ins and outs of their lives. All we can do is speculate because obviously this is all we have. But to immediately think ill of Jennifer when, I mean, in all good faith, it seems like she really was just trying to navigate herself in this really complicated process. I think that's just kind of messed up to throw her under the bus and make it seem like she was the one who did everything wrong. Again, especially when you don't know for sure that she was trying to take the kids like you claim. So I just want to throw that out there first. But okay, let's say maybe she was actually trying to take the kids away from the husband, right? Trying to take custody and not allow him to see them or interact with them. Do you really still think that's a justifiable cause to kill someone? And this is when we get to the point of the video. Y'all sitting here like, oh, that's so devastating, man. That's so harsh. I get why he killed her. You what? Y'all need to get this straight, okay? Because so many of y'all do not understand this. Just because someone has a traumatic backstory, a sob story, or they've been through something really bad, does not mean they immediately get excused. This is something that always bothers me whenever we get into like fandoms of TV shows, specifically animes in my circumstance, because that's literally all I watch. Gosh, I cannot tell you the amount of times. This is why anime fandoms, they get on my nerves so much sometimes. Like every time there's an anime with a character with a complicated backstory and they have trauma and stuff like that, and they're just a really horrible person, the amount of people like on Pinterest in the comments be like, oh my gosh, I love them so much. They have trauma. I feel so bad. First of all, does not like every character in an anime have trauma? Like, I'm sorry, but they all have traumatic past. Every secondary character or any character that's even remotely important, guaranteed they have a traumatic backstory. Like, I'm not supposed to instantly like somebody just because they have a sad past or just because they've been through something messed up. Like, I am not suddenly obligated to be like, oh, you know what? You have a sad past. Never mind everything I said about you. Never mind all the critiques I made about you. You have trauma, so I'm gonna let it slide. Quick clarification, I am not saying that you can only like good characters or characters who aren't villains or the antagonist or whatever. There are several characters that I like that are murderers and serial killers and stuff like that because I like how complex their character is. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying the people who think that suddenly you're just supposed to like these characters because they have trauma, that type of thing, where it's like, oh, well, why don't you like them? They have a sad backstory. Like those types of people. Like, no, we're all traumatized out here, bruh. We all got sad backstories. And now I know what some of you are thinking. Hey, it's not really cool to invalidate other people's trauma just because you have trauma and other people have trauma too. And you're absolutely right. Comparing traumas is a very unhealthy thing to do. Just because you may have been through worse trauma, and that tends to be subjective when it comes to certain things, doesn't mean that something that somebody else went through is no longer valid. It still affects people in different ways. It can mess them up. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to compare or invalidate anyone's traumas. I'm trying to invalidate their unhealthy coping mechanisms. That's what I'm invalidating. It's hot. Hold on, I gotta turn on the fan. It was literally just snowing yesterday, and now it's well, I guess that's in the house. No, it's still pretty warm outside. Like, there's still snow on the ground, and it just went right back to being really warm. So anyway, I'm invalidating the way that they are handling their trauma, the after effects of their trauma, and the way that they let it affect them and affect other people. Because regardless of what you've been through, I think we can all agree, in most circumstances, killing someone is not the answer to fix that trauma. And I understand murder can be justified in certain circumstances, like out of self-defense and stuff like that. But this was not a case of self-defense. This was a case of whatever it was. Like I said, we don't have all the details just yet. But either way, unless she was like holding him at gunpoint and telling him, you're gonna give me the kids like these people think she was doing, murdering her was not the right answer. I imagine that getting a divorce is a really upsetting time. It's stressful, it's heartbreaking, it can be a lot for a person mentally. So I have no doubt that he must have been feeling really upset even though he was seemingly taking it well. But his way of solving this anger or inner hatred or whatever was going on that he was feeling was to end her life and then end his own, leaving the kid an orphan now. When I say that everyone has trauma, I'm trying to say that there are so many people who has gone through divorce, possibly gotten their child taken away from them, and all the other traumas that you can possibly think of. Yet you don't see them doing this. That is something that I can and will compare, because now you're bringing in maladaptive coping mechanisms. I actually just explained this to somebody in one of the comment sections of my video. I believe it was the one around New Year's, the money can't buy happiness thing. And somebody brought up the fact that coping seems to be an insult nowadays, and that there's nothing wrong with coping. And she was absolutely right. And I'm glad she brought it up, because then I was able to clarify that yes, there's nothing wrong with coping, but it's the way you cope that is the issue. If your coping is harmful to yourself or to other people, that is bad. That is what we call maladaptive coping. Some people do things like starve themselves or cut themselves to feel better. Some people emotionally manipulate other people to feel better. These are all bad ways of coping. Not bad, probably not the best word to use, unhealthy ways of coping. But these are probably ways that you don't want to get over some type of stress or trauma. You need to find healthier ways of getting rid of this stress or dealing with the stress. Ways that are not harmful to yourself, and especially not harmful to other people. You can't just say, well, it's just their way of coping and that's just how they deal with the stress. Yeah, that'd be fine if it was, I don't know, going to the gym or something like that. That's a reasonable way to cope with stress and anxiety and whatever. But you can't just use that excuse for everything. Hey man, how's Steve's doing with his breakup? Not so good, he's going through it. He's going through the stages. He's just trying to handle all the stress right now and stuff. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. He's going to therapy probably. No. No, not really. Oh, so what's he doing then? He drowned his neighbor's dog. What do you mean? Like drowned him with love, right? Love and compassion, right? Like smothered him with love. Nah. I mean, it's just his way of coping. That's just how he's dealing with his stress right now. John, that's not coping, John. That you can't. That's not coping. That's illegal. That's homicide. That's jail time. Now here's the thing, right? I want to clarify. There's nothing wrong with feeling sympathy and empathy for these people who may have made bad decisions as a result of their trauma. Acknowledging that what certain people have been through is sad is a part of you just being human. Especially if you may have been through something similar and seeing how they turn out that way, and that possibly you could have turned out the same way, There's that old philosophical debate of, are monsters created or do they live in all of us? Are all of us capable of doing something so heinous like that if we've been pushed to our limit? So feeling sorry for these people because of the way that they've turned out, because of their trauma, is natural. I really despise this new age of everyone trying to be these like soulless robots and very childlessly mistaking that for strength. Acknowledging that you are human and that you have human emotions is the first step. I mean, to not recognize that is to be delusional. Like, we're emotional beings. That's what we are. You can't change that. You can't pretend that you're not. Cosplaying as a robot isn't going to do anything. It is perfectly fine to acknowledge that feelings are an important part when we're talking about conversations and other things like that. I don't listen to true crime as much anymore, but when I used to, and I used to hear all these stories of people becoming these mass murderers, I would feel some type of empathy for them, because I mean, yeah, it's messed up. Like, a lot of them have really bad childhoods, really bad trauma, and that's what turns them into these monsters. It makes you think of all the different ways things could have went so that they wouldn't turn out this way. So being sympathetic is perfectly fine, but you also have to be objective. This is where the saying, two things can be true at the same time, really comes into play. You can be sympathetic, recognize that the circumstance is sad, but you can also recognize that the way that they reacted because of their trauma was not okay. Yes, it is upsetting that he went through a divorce, but was it okay that he ended her life because of it? No, you have to separate the two and recognize that while you feel bad for them, that does not justify their bad behaviors. Nor does it mean, again, that you instantly have to like them, instantly have to give them a pass. Oh, it's okay that you did what you did because you have trauma. Because, as mentioned before, there are better and healthier ways in order to go about it. But to sit here and now shift the blame completely over to the women, to do a complete 180, is a very dangerous thing to do. We can't just completely excuse the behaviors of the husband simply because he was distraught about the divorce. And this is the reason why doing something like this is so incredibly dangerous in a social aspect, because what you do is you take accountability from that individual. Because he was distraught about the divorce, it's okay that he did what he did. It's justifiable. It's understandable. When no, it is not justifiable because there were other and more healthy ways to deal with the stress he was feeling. It is never justifiable to take somebody else's life, take your own life, and leave your kids orphans. You are now removing responsibility from that person's actions and thus creating a person who can do no wrong. This perpetuates this mindset that because I was once a victim of whatever it is that you were a victim of, whatever trauma that you've been through, whatever backstory that you have, you will always be a victim and you will never be blamed for anything. You will never have responsibility of anything that you do because it is a result of your trauma. So blame the trauma, blame the bad circumstance. Don't blame me though. It's not my fault. As long as they are a victim, they can play that card on you and reverse Uno the entire situation. That is not how real life works. We are all autonomous beings who are able to handle our trauma in certain ways. For the circumstance itself, no, we can't blame ourselves for that because, unfortunately, that's life. Some of us have really harsh upbringings. Some of us have lived through really bad situations. That is not under your control. You can choose how to handle that trauma. We can choose what happens after the fact. It doesn't always make it easy. Sometimes it's going to be very difficult, but it can be done. So to make it seem like they've done no wrong because they have trauma is basically saying, oh, well, what other choice did they have? Not to kill her. You had several other choices you could have made, but you made the easy one. The worst thing you can do is create a person who feels they can do no wrong, because then they will not care or even see how many other victims that they create, just perpetuating this cycle of trauma. They will never be able to see that because everyone's constantly telling them, oh no, it's okay, you have trauma, so it's not your fault that you did what you did. It's justifiable. He chose to end her life. He chose to do that, as far as we know anyways. The decisions that you make as a result of your trauma is yours. So yes, we absolutely can blame him for reacting in the way that he did. Again, whatever the reason was that he acted in that way. Sure, there could be a lot that we don't know about the situation. I can assure you, whatever new information happens to come out, none of it is going to be imperative enough that can really be like, okay, I can understand why he did that. No matter what was going on, he still has to be held accountable for his actions. So just please remember, when you're seeing anything on the news, any crimes, any persons doing any type of wrong, you can sympathize, you can empathize, it's perfectly fine. But remember that their trauma and their past are explanations, not excuses. Because when we make excuses, we take accountability. And when we take accountability from a person, they become someone who will forever see themselves as a victim, then creating other victims, and then creating a person who feels they can do no wrong. And that is a very dangerous type of person to create. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.